Hi, so this is Emil with Divorce in Florida Online, and today I want to make a video about uh, remarrying with kids. And a lot of my clients get remarried, they go into a blended family situation, and I did that too. I went into a blended family situation, and I made quite a few mistakes, and now we're divorced, and I'm not sure that the relationship could have been saved if I would have recognized these, because in order to change, both people have to be willing to be flexible, and sometimes people are just not flexible. They don't want to um, do the work to understand why this is so important to them and how to let go of certain things, because when you're working with a blended family, flexibility, it's the key word, to make things work long term. So, and I don't think neither one of us was flexible enough, but it did, you know, it did help me to understand some unhealed wounds from my childhood. And that was probably the biggest pro of what we went through as a family, my kids and I, and so forth. So mistake number one that I did was I let him become the father figure too soon. I was exhausted. I was tired. I was, wrangling twins, and they were just toddlers, 2 years old, and I don't remember the ages of the other two, but I had 4 kids, and he just stepped in, and I'm so forever grateful to him for doing that. But it was too soon, um, and I mean, 7 years later, I think our marriage lasted 7 years. Um, it was still too soon. Or maybe it was, and now that I look at it, probably was never even his role. He shouldn't have been the discipline, and that's actually something that I needed to kind of figure out beforehand before getting into this relationship. But either way, it was just too soon. So number two, I ignored the red flags. I was his oldest son had a conversation with me, and it was, I love him to death. I love his kids. I still do, and I miss him very much. But he told me that his mom was surprised that my ex-husband was getting married again with someone with kids, because she thought that he just didn't like kids, because of the things that she experienced, with him as a dad. How he was um, too strict and too rough with the kids when it came to discipline. And I told him, hey, I hear you. I have seen some of that, and I have been able to kind of bring it down a notch. And I promise you that I won't ignore that. That I will keep that in mind, because that's not how I treat my kids. And and that's, but I ignored that, and I ignored that conversation, and I put it in the back and said, well, they're not his kids. He's going to back away. He'll figure out that I'm not going to back down, but that didn't happen. So I ignored that. I was given a reason not to move forward, but I still move forward with the marriage. Anyway, number three is, before you, every relationship in our lives, I think especially children and even husbands, they help us to work through our childhood traumas. Okay, and I just heard this yesterday, and I was like, that makes sense. I mean, that she said children, but I'm saying even husbands helps us, because in my case, through my children and through his relationship with them, I realized that I still had a lot of childhood trauma that I had not worked through. I thought I had worked through the trauma. I thought that I was fine, and I went through a lot of self-work and self-discovery, but I didn't go through that part of it, like the whole trauma from childhood thing. so after we broke up, I actually went into dark night of the soul and truly understood that all of this happened, because my stepdad was extremely strict to the point of abuse, and he abused my mom physically, but it was like this rain. I was raised in a house full of terror, and it's not that it happened every time, but it was the whole cycle of abuse. And to give you an example, I fell from my bike one time and he just threw it on top of the ceiling of the house. That was it. There's no, okay, you learned something, get back on the bike. No, it was like you fell from the bike, here, go up there, that's it, done. That kind of thing. It was just, there was no room to grow, no room for anything, and it was all based on fear. So if you can try to work through those traumas, then you recognize the people that will trigger that back, and that will inflict that pain on your children. That's what I'm trying to say. So really work through that stuff before you engage someone else in your family, because chances are you're going to work through it again through that person, unfortunately, because you can't recognize it until you face it, and get rid of it. Okay. Number 4, decide ahead of time before you're moving together, with your person, your new person, how discipline will work. And my suggestion is that discipline should always stay with the biological parent. It should never be transferred or allowed to happen with the newcomer, because it's a newcomer no matter what. Even if the child was only a year old, still a newcomer, still not biological parent. So discipline should never be taken by the new person, the step parent. And I also believe that it shouldn't even interject into it. My ex-husband he liked to interject into it. He liked to do, he didn't let me, even if he told me, you take care of it, I will take care of it, but he would be at the door, running his mouth. I would be saying something to my children, and he would be interjecting on time, like 2 against 1 is not fair. And I will tell him, can you please, either you do it or you let me do it. But it was just never, like, we could never see eye to eye. We loved each other, and I still love him. I will always love him. But it was too much on my children. I mean, it was just really, really rough. Number 5 mistake was actually going to therapy, but not following through, not pushing through. We went to therapy couple of times, with multiple sessions, but we never really went. When it got down to actually working through whatever, something would happen and we wouldn't go back, and everything got stagnant and we didn't move forward with it. And I mean, we were so close with the last therapist to truly getting down to the bottom of it and truly finding solutions to what we're going through. But the therapist made a huge mistake. I mean, and I don't like blaming therapists. I love therapists. I believe in them. But this particular therapist made a huge mistake. I'll make another video about this. And unfortunately, at that point, I had no choice. I had to stop the therapy. That it would never work with that particular therapist. And it was a huge mistake. But if that didn't happen, sometimes therapy gets to a point that it's so painful, and you're like about to take that leap that will definitely give both of you, and you're both finally not in your ego anymore. You're finally breaking it down. You're finally understanding, starting to go there to where it hurt, because hurt people. So he was hurt from his childhood, but didn't want to face it and kept saying that everything child was perfect. But I know in my heart it's not, because I met his parents and I knew there was a lot of pain there. but he would not. He would just say, no, they were perfect, everything was perfect, everything was perfect. But just when it was starting to open up, bring down that wall a little bit, the therapist made a huge mistake. That wall went up, and that was it, done. There's nothing I could do about it. But so if you go to therapy, you choose to go to therapy, just make sure to keep going, even though it gets painful, even though it gets difficult. Just keep going, keep going, keep going. Do not give up. If you decided to do this. And mistake number 6 was that I stayed, I actually lost my house that I had before I got married. I used that money from the renter. I had it rented. I used that money to pay for our new place because I relocated to a whole different city with my ex-husband because he got a different job, and I just took my kids, rented a house, moved across the state to a different city. And while I don't regret that move because I do love Tampa and the Tampa area, and that's where I live now, there was no plan, no financial plan. So definitely talk about finances. Okay, so if this happens, what are we gonna do? We didn't talk about that. We didn't talk, okay, we're going to Tampa, okay, great. We're renting our homes, okay, fantastic. He rented his first, and then, when the move happened, I rented mine. What will happen if you lose your job? How are we gonna pay the rent? How are we gonna pay? I ended up paying our rent, which I had never paid rent that high in my life. Not even mortgage. My mortgage from the house that I lost was $742 a month, and it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a 1/4 acre. I hate myself for this, admitting this. This was very painful. I should have never done this before, but I did it because I didn't want to open up the thing and say, hey bro, what are we doing here? How are we paying this? When he proposed moving into this place, it showed me the website, the video, and I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. And then when he told me the rent, I'm like, well, yeah, but I'm getting a good job. And I'm like, okay. But we never addressed, how are we going to pay for this? We never addressed it. I sold my business to come to Tampa. I had no financial plan. Okay. I had no financial plan. And just thought that, I thought he was gonna support me, to be honest. Okay, hello. I was receiving different income from different sources. I was receiving, the girl's child support, which is not a lot, but it was enough to at least, make a car payment because I had to get a car. And I received some income from the SEO work that I was doing for the person that purchased the company, and a little bit of money from the company. I think it was for a payment for 6 months, and it was supposed to give me time to find my footing, figure it out. I was on an MLM selling lockets back then, so so I had some different ways, and I've always been creative with my finances and making money, but we didn't talk about the finances. We didn't talk about who's gonna pay for what and all that. And that's a huge regret. And this is good for anybody. If you're getting married for the first time, or for the 3rd time, or the 4th time, it doesn't matter. Talk about the finances before you live together, before you get married. That was such a stupid mistake on my part. I regret it with such passion. That was the biggest mistake I made. I put my family in a situation that was critical. Now my girls don't have, we lost the house that I had for them, so now we had to start from scratch, and it's painful. Now that we're divorced, it's like, great, but I ended up paying for our rent for years, and the rent was the biggest bill in the house. And as crazy as it sounds, I felt that I had to, because I needed a roof over my head for my kids. And even though I didn't choose that bougie, because it was bougie place, I shouldn't have taken that. I shouldn't have done that. And finally, always make your kids a priority. Make sure that if you're going to do this, if you're going to look at the relationship, that they have, because that's going to give you an idea if, you know, let's say you remove yourself out of the picture because you die, or you have to travel, or you have to take care, like I did, take care of an ailing parent. That happened to me in 2020 twice with my both parents. And, you know, where I was not at the home, I had to be gone for weeks at a time. So how is your relationship if you remove yourself from it? You know, how would that relationship be okay? That's super, super important, that they can communicate even if you're not there. Are they communicating in a healthy manner, or is it with disdain, or, you know, just too rough, you know, that sort of thing? How's their relationship? And in my opinion, they should be like friends. They not necessarily, you know, like mom and dad, because obviously if that's not there, that's not there. If it's there, that's fantastic. But if that's not there, are they still kind of friends, you know? And it's their respect, but without fear. Make sure that there's no fear in their relationship with your new person, because if there is, it's going to be painful once you guys, the things are over or whatever, or the children will be raised with fear. And that's something that you definitely do not want your children to go through. That was my occasion. Your unhealed wound from your childhood may be something else. That was my unhealed wound from my childhood. And so it's taking a lot of therapy, a lot of work. It's been now 2 years, and we're finally at a good place where, you know, my role is not, before, for a time, the kids didn't even respect me because they expected fear, and I was not going to raise them that way, but they were used to that. So that's how they thought I had to be. And at one point I thought, well, maybe he was right. Maybe that's the only way they're going to listen to me, because of fear. But so it took me some time to unpack that, and for them to unpack that and work with therapists to figure out that that was our old way of doing things. We didn't have to do things that way anymore. They, you know, they could choose to understand that that's no longer here. But just because no longer here doesn't mean they don't need to do what's right. You know, if I say clean your room, or clean this, or do that, I shouldn't have to scream at you. I shouldn't have to, you know, act the way my ex did in order for you to get it done. There's no reason for that. And so now it's come around where now they finally back to what they used to be, where there's no fear needed for you to know what you need to do, you know, and for you to do what's right, without me having to get pissed and mad and angry and all those things. And also, I don't need to expect things to be done the way he used to get them done and feel guilty if they don't. You know, last night, my daughter left a dish in the sink after I had told her, you need to clean this up. She says it's not mine, and everybody's saying it's hers. And it's like, you know, that sort of thing in the past would have made me just blow a gasket and start feeling like, oh, Carrie, you know, my ex was right. But no, now I realize it's just kids. These are just kids. I just have to be, you know, stay my ground and do what I need, and, you know, and for them to understand that it doesn't matter. I told you to clean it, period, end of story. You know, but all goes down to understanding that if you get married again and you have kids with someone, definitely look at all these things ahead of time. You know, you want to make sure that you are getting them in a better situation, in a better place. Okay? All right, I hope this helps. Please comment down below if this kind of video helps you or not. And I really appreciate your input, and I see you in the next video. Bye.